Detroit Become Human review. Here we go. Detroit. What a great story, and what an okay video game. Yeah, y'all know how this goes. Just like past works from this studio, Quantic? I want to say Quantum so bad, and it won't let me, because that's not what it is, because that's not how David Cage do. Why you gotta do me like this, you piece of shit? Just like past works from this studio, Quantic Dreams brings us a game with a heavy focus on story, with tidbits of gameplay sprinkled throughout, as an afterthought it seems. Par for the course that. No one can really say they were expecting different. But what's really unfortunate on the gameplay side this time is that Detroit also feels light on meaningful choice. It's hard for a player to get a sense of their own impact on the narrative because of how disappointingly linear each level is. Let me paint you a picture. Yellow waypoint icons and objective list at the touch of a button, and an agonizingly slow walk with no option to run when you want to. Put these elements together and you'll have most players going through the same motions. Wanting to waste nothing in your slow movement, you'll constantly check for the closest point of interest, bouncing between each set piece as efficiently as you possibly can. The best word I can attribute to the level design is confining, and going through the motions of completing each checklist is tedious. Press buttons and walk. That's all it is. Because of this, I doubt many will have the desire to play through again. That is, unless they purchased it for the full $60. Then I could see someone wanting to squeeze out every bit of value for their money far past the point where Detroit stops being fun. If traversing the world was completely cut out, this would be far more enjoyable pace-wise. If the whole experience were just cutscenes with dialogue choices, I'd actually call it a stronger game. It'd be a lot shorter, but the quality of time spent would be much improved, ironically bringing replay value up to actually extend your time with Detroit. But most importantly, increasing fond memories of it. The story chart display between levels is deceptive as well, making it seem like you did a lot more, but if you align all these branches that don't actually diverge into a straight line, the truth of linearity shines through. There are some standout exceptions though. Not all levels have yellow icons to guide you, and when a time limit is added on top of that, it makes for a much more thrilling and memorable experience. The fear of failure doesn't come to you often when playing Detroit, but when it does, it's truly exciting and far more rewarding. Fuck, we gotta get it. We gotta move. Let's go in this way.
What? The little one is gone. Well, I can't have
Fuck.
just disappeared.
What the fuck are you
Gotta
doing?
be
No!
here somewhere. What are you waiting for?
I had to hold down both of those, huh? I wanted the entire game to play like this, because I loved these sections and seeing the lost potential saddens me. Isn't it so much more effective to have a player explore an area if there's actually a chance they could miss something?
Find them, for fuck's sake!
It keeps them present and on edge about their decisions. What makes locations cluttered with points of interest highlighted even worse is the fact that you can interact with all of them. There's no choice to miss some in favor of others. That means when these come with a time limit, it's far more forgiving. So much so that it's obvious you'll have more than enough leeway. No tension can build in this case, especially when your character still moves at a snail's pace, reinforcing a lack of urgency. You don't even have to put any thought into investigating. A lot of it reminds me of Arkham Knight. Just scan the things you already have the location of, somehow, and reconstruct the crimes beat for beat exactly as they happened because you're fucking omniscient apparently. The twist on this mechanic, called pre-construct, is definitely worth mentioning though. You freeze time and plot out your movements. Well, you don't actually freeze time, you just process information really fast because you're a smart cookie. Anyway, then you watch the cutscene upon picking the right path. Although, since you can't actually execute on the incorrect paths, this task is equally as mindless. I found myself going on autopilot while playing Detroit far more than I would have liked. But you know what's truly ironic about all this? Every complaint I've stated about the UI can actually be argued as appraisals when we look at them not strictly from a gameplay perspective. Because in service to the story and its message, this system is perfect. As players, our reliance on the UI represents a parallel to our dependence on technology. You could look at walking between yellow markers the same way as scrolling between posts on your smartphone. In this sense, the game ruled me. Technology had taken me over. The player gets more immersed in the role of an android than they're able to realize while playing. It's only when you finish with Detroit and put it down, ruminating on what you've actually done, that you wake up. We only break away from our programming when the console shuts down. And that is equal parts frightening and exciting. Gaming has come so far, and based on David Cage's reputation, I wasn't expecting to be impressed here. I was ready to laugh. I was fully expecting to make a negative review, having a few yucks in the process. What I definitely didn't foresee was experiencing a cautionary tale in this video game that actually conveys its message through the mechanics, even though they're so simple. Hell, I even appreciate how invisible walls of all things serve the world building. After all, why would an android walk any path but the most expedient? This means we get to enjoy a beautiful open backdrop with a good narrative excuse for our restricted movement. This game is a beautiful example of an art form working within and also in harmony with its limitations. Walls can also pop up to prevent actions that conflict with an android's programming. But these are breakable and make for great character moments, reminding us that if we want to make meaningful changes in our world, we must have conviction. I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to betray this man. I don't want to kill his son by accident, but it looks like I'm forced to... Ironically, I'm forced to force myself out of my command. I'm forced to have free will. How dare you force me to have free will? Good fucking job, David Cage. To be honest, I haven't played any of the other games you've written yet, but this is some good shit. When we're talking about how the underlying message was conveyed, Detroit Become Human is good as gold. But of course, not everything can be so subtle and left up to interpretation. There's plenty of examples of narrative being pounded into you relentlessly. Mostly this happens when the subject of oppression comes up.
Humans enslaved us. I'll never regret standing up to that. They've been butchering each other for centuries over the color of their skin or whatever god they wanted to worship. They're not gonna change.
Yeah, we get it. Slavery, bad. Equal rights, good. But by the halfway point in the story, I'm begging you to say something new.
I'm afraid that we're gonna see the combination of the molestation of the subject matter combined with David Cage's boredom for his own subject matter, where halfway through, or maybe even 30%,
he can never get through one story without changing.
he just gets bored of what he's talking about.
Actually, that didn't happen this time. What we got instead, though, was just a constant loop of the same things being talked about. And fair enough, all three main characters you play as have to reach their resolution somehow, but when the climax of each of their stories brings them all to the same realization, it gets extremely redundant. I guess if David Cage doesn't get bored with a single narrative, he beats you over the head with it, and apparently leans on cliches pretty hard.
Hold it!
Oh no.
Thanks, Hank. I don't know how I would have managed
Not
without
this shit.
you. Get rid of him. We have no time to lose.
This is
me,
really
Hank.
one of these?
I'm the real Connor.
Speaking of pretty hard, you just had to go there, huh? Even most of those who haven't played Heavy Rain still know about the infamous shower scene.
Connor! What the fuck are you doing?
Coming, Lieutenant.
Wasn't doing anything. Cage couldn't not have some scenes that were sexually promiscuous, and
Oh my goodness!
I don't like how different dialogue choices lead to the same replies most of the time, especially since I got super invested in my social links. Well, actually only one of them in particular. I just really want Hank to love me.
Do you listen to Knights of the Black Death? I really like that music. It's full of energy.
You listen to heavy metal?
Well, I don't really listen to music as such, but I'd like to.
I'm making a statement, and I'm sorry if this ruffles some feathers, but it needs to be said. Hank is best girl. Come at me, Fig.
Ah! Ah! Turn it off! Turn it off! Ah! What the fuck are you doing here?
The worst example is when you have to say all the things, and the order doesn't even matter. Oh, then what the fuck? Just keep it in cutscene form. Now that I'm good and riled up, I got a bone to pick with the difficulty. Only 2 settings? Really? I had a little bit of trouble with the controls at first, which means I maybe should have picked Kazul, but I wanted to keep the risk of losing characters. It's just more fun that way. Prompts didn't have to be this complicated. I at least don't have them conflict with camera controls. You'll get used to it, but customization for difficulty would have been appreciated. I'll take characters can die with simple controls, thank you. Now let's talk about the meat of the challenge, those tight QuickTime events. Sorry to say, there's not much of a penalty for messing these up. At least, I don't think so. I don't know, I never did. Not to say I played perfectly, no, far from it. But to actually fail, I guess you gotta fuck these prompts up very consistently. I think the most I missed in a row was 3, and still, success achieved. Makes me wonder if they even animated for fail states. So much for a branching story with consequences, huh? Let's take a look at one sequence in particular where you can either kill or spare a character, and see how much of a difference that makes.
When that man broke the other Tracy, I knew I was next. I was so scared.
When that
begged
man
him
killed that Tracy,
stop, but he wouldn't.
I knew I was next.
And so I put my hands around
I
his
was so
throat,
scared.
and I squeezed until he stopped moving.
I begged him to stop, but he wouldn't.
Success on any given mission depends on how much information you've gathered, i.e. how many yellow waypoints you visited. So I think the best way to enjoy Detroit would be to earnestly collect all information on your first playthrough so you can make the most informed choices, then go full fuck it on your second game, but only after weeks of not touching it, knowing as little as possible. That way, you're not playing evil, not on purpose. We'll call this the ignorance run.
What's my dog's name?
Aw, fuck. Ah, shit. I don't fucking know. It could be. It's not Scout. It's not Buddy. It could be Sumo because he's huge. Or it could be Jack. I think it's Sumo. Let's try it.
Sumo. His name is Sumo. I knew that too.
So, is this an experience worth having? I think so. Does it have the best writing? Oh no. Worth full price? Probably not. Wait for a sale, I'd say. That's my blanket recommendation, but personally, because story-heavy games, linear or otherwise, are extremely important to me, I paid full price, and don't at all regret it. I had an unreasonable amount of fun playing this game for what I was doing. If a game can get me to watch its NPC pathing just for fun, that's pretty damn amazing. The city really feels alive. It's got soul. Someone playing music? Hey. Oh, nice.
6 a.m. is screaming.
That's when I woke up today. Color me immersed.
Human music. I like it.
Do it with my eyes closed.
Note to self, never claim a game as a technical marvel until you see the frame rate performance in snowy conditions. Other than that, no snow and the game runs like a dream. I'm not doing that. Nope, I caught myself. That was a perfect parry of a bad pun. All in all, I recommend this for sure, but before I go, I have one more critique. More of a grievance. See, I looked up the genre of the game after completing it, and I can't help but notice the lack of horror mentioned. True, you wouldn't outright call this a horror game, that would imply that most of it is scary. No, it's only a couple parts. But Jesus Christ. Fuck! Fucking shit! Oh my god! No thanks. I'm just slamming on my chest. What is going on? God damn it. What did you do to me, David Cage? You didn't give me a heart attack, but you compromised my immune system.